Hello. Oh, look, we've moved locations.
Not far.
As we're in a shop, should we be wearing masks?
It's a private.
Prove it's a shop.
It's a private
My
Christmas
library.
party.
My
Cheese and wine.
A personal library.
Cheese and wine. Hello, listeners, viewers. It's our final live show of 2021. It's only put on
Strange year.
Yeah. It's only put on a strange accent there, like I was like...
What accent?
Trying to get a job with... No, but like a kind of posher West Yorkshire.
Oh.
Arse end of West Yorkshire, you know, not Leeds end.
Uh-huh.
Have you signed for Featherstone, by the way?
You know, to be revealed.
You're not coming out with time, right?
No. No.
Right enough. Danika's here. Because we've done this show for 2014, so 7 years. We've been here in this location since... When did Warrington lose to Catalans? Was that 2018? 2018. You've been on loads of times. But we've never really, asked you anything about you. It's always been about rugby, which is, Team beat other team, what do you think?
I am rugby.
You are rugby. Is that
It's only
your
a
whole
small
beat?
part of you.
Well, it doesn't feel like it at the minute. It feels like quite a big part that is no longer there.
I'll shout, Carson, you can't hear me. It's because I've forgotten that the microphone's left it upstairs. You won't believe this, but I didn't really know anything about Women's Rugby League until Mark got the rights somehow, and we did the Challenge Cup final. But in the research for that, that's where I discovered you, because you did that thing, was it Her RL or something?
Yes, yeah.
On YouTube, I watched
Yeah.
all of that on YouTube, and you were on there.
A couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, she'd be good, I thought. And then you were playing. You weren't playing. But Leeds were in the final against Castleford. We were doing it, and I was going to send Tom Maguire around to get you, but he didn't want to. So, and I was too scared.
Was he intimidated?
I was.
By me?
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
I was. So we got Phil on instead. So
Obviously.
Poor option, really.
yeah,
I'd call it the better one, but...
why Rugby League? Just as a starter. I mean, we'll get into the deep psychological stuff later.
Well,
On the
actually...
couch with Oliver James.
Actually, Steve Boothroyd plays quite a big part in that. Played... Yes. Well, not huge. He used to coach my brother, or in the schools did. When I was in year 5, we started a rugby league. And me and my friend Amy played. We then played against Steve's, the Iverson or Island Wood, whichever one you were. And we won quite a bit. And Amy and I were quite good players. And we really enjoyed it. And then it kind of, there was nothing around for us at that time. I'm a little bit older than I look. So
You're the youngest person here, and of course, you're the only one who is not eligible for a booster yet. I don't know if you had it or not.
I am though, because I work in...
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. So.
I do. I can get mine today, if I wanted to. I do want to. I just haven't got it done yet. Yes, I then played a little bit in primary school. There was nothing in secondary school. Went in to do danced Disneyland Paris and London and done all sorts of dancing. Went to university at York and was like, what can I do? So tried my hand at rugby union. Really enjoyed it. And then played that for a few years. Played all sorts of levels there. And then 2015... Chris Chapman, who was the England coach at the time, basically gave me a phone call and said, was keen for the 2013 World Cup, but I'd snapped my ankle. How do you fancy playing rugby league? And by this point I was full rugby union. I was Yorkshire captain, I was North of England, and then I trialled at the 44, which is the England pathway. So I was very much rugby union. I just fancy playing rugby league, and I was like, not a chance, no way. And he was like, oh well, I've been looking at it for the World Cup in 2017 in Sydney, and I was like, okay, Fickle.
Where's this paper that I signed?
Yeah, where's Fickle? And but because I'd done my ankle, I'd put on about 3 or 4 stone, so I was big. And I was propping at uni, and it was very social at that time, so it was a bit like, because I'd gone from the performance pathway to coming back from injury, and I'd put a lot of weight on.
Ankle injuries do that to you.
Yeah, I was... Look back at pictures now, I was
That's his
big.
excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I can fully...
Which one, right or left?
Right.
Like ankle twins.
Oh, this is cute. Have you played rugby league in a World Cup?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
Barely played at school. Let alone World Cup.
I'm only joking, that was horrible. Yeah, so then, February 15, I signed for Stanley. On June 15, made my England debut. The rest is lost 3 stone.
Went to
by
Bradford.
June. Yeah, Stanley, 2 seasons, was captain the second season, went to Bradford purely because of the World Cup and needing to play a little bit of level higher, which was quite a hard decision. Went to Bradford for a very short season. We won the treble, got to the World Cup, came back, was going to quit, and then Lois was like, on the 14-hour flight from Sydney to Dubai after the World Cup, she was like, probably the best thing I did was sit next to her and she was like, don't, come on, because I'd been down to like the trials, but I was a bit done after the World Cup. It kind of spoilt it, and she was like, why don't you come and try it? It's a brand new coaching setup. They've never been in the women's game before. It's a brand new squad. We essentially thought that going from Bradford being the treble to a brand new squad, we weren't actually going to do that well, so it was like, see how it goes, play for fun, there's nothing to lose, I get to play in the Leeds Rhinos jersey, and then the rest is kind of history. And now I'm a die-hard rugby leaguer. But it is quite a short rugby league history, really.
So we should start with your surname.
Yes.
Eastern European.
Estonian, predominantly.
Very proud.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like it's quite niche, isn't it? Like, I'm very proud of my grandparents and their story, so very proud of you know,
So
what they went
have
through.
you spent time there? Did you?
Not
Your
really.
ancestral home is where?
I'm Italian, so we are pretty central. No, my biggest fear about going to Estonia is I think it's quite rude that I can understand a bit more Estonian than I can speak. Purely because my grandparents used to speak to us quite a lot in Estonian, or would speak in Estonian a lot, but my grandma would always want us to respond in English. Her English was very good, my grandfather's English was very good. So I really want to, before I properly go out there, I really want to make sure.
You're right, so you're so famous, they do a who do you think you
Oh
are?
my gosh, no.
Take you.
I just want to get back up on my lingo. I have been teaching myself it again, and I think I really like languages anyway, and so I will be fine, but yeah, I will make a big effort to go back once I went to Poland, I went to Auschwitz, and the whole concentration camp thing there my grandparents went through was quite harrowing, so I think even though I wasn't back in Estonia, it was quite one of those moments where I was a bit like, I need to really get hold of my roots. But my family is quite disjointed, so it's one of those.
Families are.
Yeah, so it's one of those where it's kind of like I need to be in the right place to go back and do it. I really want to do it justice, so I don't want to just do like a quick weekend in Tallinn where it's a bit of a Prague at the minute, isn't it? Where it's a bit like it was a bit stag party. Yeah, still very old and traditional. So it's on the books to do properly.
Big family?
Yeah. My dad is one of five. My mum's one of 2. But then I worked this out the other day with somebody. I think I've got something like 15 cousins and then another 10 or 11 second cousins. So yeah, pretty big. I'm one of 4. So yeah, good Catholics. Good Catholics.
What else is this to do in the cold of winter
Well, there
in
you go.
Tallinn?
Well, they all came over. My mum grew up in Birmingham, and my dad Burnley. In Lancashire.
As long as
Dreadful.
you weren't born there.
No, Leeds, born and bred, LGI. But they met through the Estonian club just off Manningham Road in Bradford.
Is that like the Irish Centre then?
Basically, yeah. You'd go on.
Or something,
You'd go on a weekend on everyone had their birthday there, everyone had Christmas there, every wedding was there.
Subsidised meals, like the Polish Centre.
Yeah, and cheap alcohol.
Well, I mean, Carson's asked that. He says, because you're talking about stag parties in Tallinn.
Oh, cheap as chips, yeah.
Leeds Rhinos women. How can Danika handle the vodka?
With ease,
Yeah.
I heard.
Fresh Polish vodka, very well. I've been known to be last man standing, last woman standing. I'm the social sec. I went to university. I went to Leeds Met.
You went to a proper university,
Yeah, I went to a poly. I know I can handle it. Chunky and funky, aren't I? I've got that behind me. Yeah, I like a beer. I've recently, since lockdown, got down into ales. I'm a proper old man.
Craft.
Yeah, I'm a proper... No, not
I
a
don't
hipster.
drink any of I don't know.
No, I used to like a good pint of lager, but no, I do like an ale. I do like a bit of a pale ale.
Leeds Pale Ale.
I like a brewery visit. Yeah.
You should get one of these breweries to name one after you.
Oh, it's a
To
bit...
celebrate your,
Well, if you want to go get in contact with Kirksall or somebody.
Jones has got a brewery now.
Yes, the locale.
What would the Danika Pale Ale taste of?
Great.
Fruity.
Smooth. And... yeah, I've got no other words to describe. It'd be nice. It'd be nice, it'd be easy. Steady away.
Go down well.
Yes, it won't be too strong. It won't
This
be
is turning into
won't be
another
too much.
podcast at the moment.
Yeah, it'd just be steady away.
This is
steady
innuendo city if we're not careful.
Nice, casual, easy.
So what did you study at university?
My first
This
degree...
is about you, it's not about rugby. Anybody tuning in for gossip on rugby,
We've done that before.
we did that, yeah.
There's no gossip. My first degree is in sport and exercise science and medicine at York. And then my second one is in secondary PE with qualified teacher status at Leeds Met.
And that's what you're now teaching.
I am now teaching maths and PE. So a bit of a curveball, but now teaching an alternative provision. Have been head of PE, have gone through the ranks, I've tried my hand at all sorts, but yeah, now an alternative provision, teaching maths and PE, and prefer the maths side of it.
Alternative provision being for kids who are on the verge of being excluded, or
kids with social, emotional, mental health needs who can't really access mainstream, or mainstream is too big for them, like through their anxieties or whatever their needs might be. That where they work, the biggest class is probably 8 or 9, and that's what we class as a big class. And the ratio of staff to kids should be 1 to 3, but it's a pandemic at the minute, so
But it's specialist teaching. You must have to have skills other than the ability to get over the maths formula that you're teaching at the moment.
You've got to have a bit of empathy and a bit of resilience and a little bit of compassion.
And there are words you don't usually associate with PE teachers. So
No, just throw a ball. I played dodgeball
Get
today.
up that wall bar.
I played dodgeball today. I had to let somebody win. Ugh. But yeah, it's a different. Do you know what? It's taught me loads about myself. So I was head of PE in a really high achieving school in Bradford, and I found it really difficult in different ways. Is that I'm not a paper pusher, and it was one of those jobs where I found myself finding my teaching was getting in the way because I had that much paperwork to do, and that just wasn't for me.
A bit like Kevin Sinfield at Leeds.
Well,
The bureaucracy wore
yes,
down.
and that's it. Mainstream teaching now, is very political, and as much as I like my politics and my opinions and stuff, I just want to teach the kids. And came out, stepped into an alternative provision briefly, and got a taste for it, and then decided that's where I want to go. And here I am. This is my 3rd year in this one, and it's probably the most difficult job I've ever had in terms of my own mental health and dealing with their emotions and how emotionally challenging it is. But it's also super rewarding, and I've learnt so much more about me as a teacher and how to teach and how to change my teaching and all the cheesy kind of cliche things as a teacher you should be saying, but like I've legitimately, like, it's so different. I can sit in front of 30 kids and go, here's a piece of paper, fill it in, you're not listening, here's a C1 or whatever the behaviour policy is, to, right, what am I going to do for this kid to make sure he sits down and learns this, but he can't read off the paper because his literacy skills aren't very good. So I'm going to have to do it in a way that he needs to understand a question on an exam paper, but he can't read or articulate it. How am I going to teach him how to do that within a 35-minute slot? And of that 35 minutes, he might sit down for me for 15. How am I going to keep him engaged? And it's a totally different, and every single kid in the class is completely different. So it's challenging, but really rewarding.
Does that help having been in a dressing room environment? Because I'm not comparing the
However,
educational element, but you do have a lot of diverse characters, and to get the best out of a team, you've got to know which buttons to press on each one to maximise
I think
motivation.
one of the most important things that Chris Chapman ever taught me was learn about your teammates, learn how they want to prepare, learn how they best get ready. So Amy Hardcastle gets super nervous and is a panicker. So if you're not very good with that, you keep away from her. If you want to calm her, you talk at her. Tash Gaines is really giddy and a bit too much at times, and she likes being loud and laughing and telling jokes. Yeah, and she likes a prank or two.
Definitely Sean.
Caitlin likes to put music on and throw a ball at the wall, a tennis ball at the wall. Sophie likes to sit, chat and eat. You know, so you've got to learn about everyone else around you, because it's just respect, isn't it, for how people do, and if there's somebody that's doing something that's maybe not as a benefit to the whole squad, you've got to be able to have that really quiet word with them and just be like, I'm not having a go, but be more conscious about the people around you. So I think there is an element of that where you need to appreciate everyone's needs and how they prepare and how they get ready. Yeah, so they are very similar, and I think it's that whole resilience thing, isn't it? When things aren't going right, how do you adjust? And when somebody's going to go into crisis, we call it at school, you know, when they're about to lose it. We're not allowed to say kicking off because it's not a very nice term to use, but...
So we shouldn't say meltdown for people.
Oh, there's a few melts in the squad, but... I can refer to the team as that, just not the kids at school that I teach. But yeah, there are lots of things that do overlap, which I think I've definitely taken into account more now working where I work now. And the younger ones, like Lucy Murray, sent me the most lovely message the other day on just to say that she was sorry she missed the end of the season and how much I'd helped her and how much I'd been an ear for her to go to every time she was nervous for a game. She'd come and speak to me, and I didn't realise she did that, nor did I realise I was that for her until she pointed it out. And then you think back and you're like, oh yeah, actually I do take time to speak to people. So yeah, there are crossovers a little.
I'm trying to think where to go back to now.
Start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start, apparently.
Apparently.
That's what Julie Andrews told me.
In the dressing room, not warranted.
Yeah.
So you played rugby league at school, primary school?
Yeah, 5 and 6. Mr. Llewellyn, right? And I think he works in Rawdon now. I'd love to see him. Robin Llewellyn. He was a guy, and he was really
Steve
weird.
will know where he is.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I think he was assistant head at Rawdon St Peter's. That's what I heard a couple of years ago. Maybe more than a couple. Maybe it was like 5. But the last 5 years is a bit of a blur anyway. And he was just liked a bit of rugby, I think. He taught my brother but didn't teach me, but he was the one that got a rugby team started. Mr. Llewellyn.
Everybody has a teacher.
Robin
Even
Llewellyn.
despite the fact that, you know, I obviously hated school, I think there are some teachers that I did like. Well, I didn't like school in general. So, when you get to secondary school, there's no outlet for you.
No, I've got 2 older brothers, and the oldest one, I've got a very distinctive surname, haven't I? So, are you Carl's sister? Yes, and I was tarnished with this automatic brush that he had. He was a nightmare.
I hope my sister's not tarnished with the same brush.
Oh, no, I think my brother, blew up a science lab and got excluded.
No. Just didn't like RE.
So I was actually really quiet and shy. And then I got tarnished with my brother's brush, so I kind of kept it low key. Did every possible school sport anyway, because it meant not going home. We didn't have much at home. We weren't very privileged at all. Yeah, and it meant not going home, so I was on the football team, the hockey, athletics, rounders,
good at them all,
swimming. No. I'm not actually very good at any. I'm bang average at best.
Keen.
Yeah, I'm just keen. I'm just a die-hard trier. So I'm not actually great, but I would always be the one that was steps up if you needed an extra player, or I would just be in it anyway. Trampolining.
Need a goalie. I'll do it.
Yeah.
You don't give awards out of your school to kids who try and PE, do you?
I don't give awards out of my school, no.
No, because I've still got my record of achievement. I don't know why I've not been it yet, and I do have certificates for trying in PE.
I was sports girl of the year in 6th form.
I think we had a similar one at our 6th form, but it was something different than that.
Yeah. I was the sports prefect in 6th form.
I didn't have prefects. I went to a core school.
But I learned how to swim so I could be on the swim team.
How disappointed were you? Obviously, were you going to watch the Rhinos a lot at this point, or you?
So I wasn't yet. So when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, our thing was a £10 season ticket.
Yeah.
So for your juniors, it was a £10 season ticket. So you spent £10 to start the season, and it was pretty much every Friday, well, the Friday night games. And we all used to go, and those were the days where if you didn't have a season ticket, you jumped over the Western Terrace wall. I never did.
Gary doesn't watch.
No,
it's fine because I had a season ticket anyway. And I remember having a scarf, predominantly white with obviously yellow and blue stripes. But apart from that, we watched bits and pieces. But it wasn't the reason we went there was because it was a social gathering, and we were allowed to do that because it was an organised social gathering. But I was still into it. I was more into it than the other girls that went there for the boys. My friend Jenny, to this day, I do not understand why she got one. She's been to watch me a few times, but her interest in sport, like we're best friends, but we're complete polar opposite. I don't know why we're best friends. I do. I adore her, but in the sense of like we couldn't be any more polar opposite if we tried. But we always used to go, and those are the days where we're talking 97, 98, 99 kind of time. My brother used to come, I used to go, friends used to go, and that was. Yeah, I was a fan in the sense that we probably went to all the home games because we could. Learned a few names, and then there was a school sports thing where I went, and there was Yesin Harris and that kind of calibre of people. Yeah, and there's a picture floating around somewhere of that. Leeds Ryan was put out a couple of seasons ago, I think. It was 2019 before I made my Challenge Cup comeback. And somebody tagged me in it, and then Leanne from Leeds texted me saying, "Are you in this picture?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I am. There I am." And my brother was in it, and two of my younger brother and my middle brother was up there, and then loads of friends from school, and we'd all gone for the day to. I think Barry might have been there as well, but that's when I was kind of like, "Oh, I am a fan. Like I know players now, so I'm a fan officially." And then, yeah, kind of always liked sport. Always loved watching live sport.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a huge football fan, but if it's like a social gathering, I'll go. I wouldn't choose to go to a game just because I want to watch them. If like there's a social gathering, I'd go and watch. But I generally like live sport and watching anything. So
I'm going to guide this into dancing somehow. So what was it about rugby league that you liked to play at school? The physicality?
Yeah, I've got three brothers. It was always, like the whole summertime when you were playing out cops and robbers or playing football and rugby on the field, and the good old days of the mum shouting from the door, your tea's ready, everybody in, or be in by the time the lamps come on and stuff. So everything was always. I did have like the Barbies and the typically girly stuff, but I had three brothers, so it was Lego.
Weren't a lot of hand-me-downs when it comes to Barbies. If you got three brothers.
It was. Well, I've got three on my mum's side. My aunt has got three girls, so I did have. But they were. I think the youngest one is still 4 years older than me. So I had bits and pieces, but by the time I kind of got the hand-me-downs, they were old, and so the stuff that I got was quite cool. But yeah, I was never hugely into any of that anyway. Lego, had a Game Boy, N64.
Favourite games?
Oh, I'm such a geek.
I'll just zone out at this point.
No, but like a Tetris. Like, I'm a maths teacher, and little did I realise at the time. And then me and my brother used to play a lot of chess. But
you
yeah,
can play against Paulie.
I beat him.
I mean, he's at York now. I mean, that's perfect. You're a woman. You can go play for York.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching, you can tag you in the tweet, didn't I?
No thanks. I've got plenty of players now.
The thing I don't like, I don't not like you. Just taking the piss. So how do you go from rugby league, tough, manly, to dancing?
Doing a degree.
Yeah, because dancing
in sport.
So
my only experience of dancing is being forced to do it at school when I was 12.
I was
Was that Maypole?
Ballroom.
Really?
Paul Lass had to dance with.
What sort of school was this?
Yeah, where did you go to
That
school?
was great. It's produced great rugby league players. Nigel Wright.
What about great ballroom dancers?
I think they did this competition called Rock Challenge, obviously way past your time, but they did do it. But yeah,
Strictly Come Dancing live from Outwood Grange.
featuring the one, the only.
You know
one
what?
ankle.
There's not many things I'm bitter about. But the fact I'm not on their alumni page, that's that I'm bitter about. I was on national radio twice.
Fuming.
I was on the BBC.
Outwood Grange. I don't think I'm on Ralph Horsby's.
You're an international sports
Me and
person.
Jodie Broughton went to the same school. You know. I played against, beat Luke Gale when he was in primary school. You know, that calibre of people. Where am I? I wasn't very liked at school. was a bit cocky. No, so I did the whole thing when I was younger, you know, when you're like a toddler, ballet, tap, standard. And then I tried, when I was about 4 or 5, I remember trying to do a pirouette off the arm of the chair and landed on the floor and broke my collarbone.
Bet that went down well.
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing?
Yeah, and we had one of those old prefabricated houses, so the floor was actually concrete. It was black like, I don't know if it's concrete, but it was black underneath a very poorly lined carpet. So I just crushed it, but it took me ages to get it x-rayed because I was scared of the x-ray machine. And then I was like, I couldn't dance for ages anyway, and then just didn't end up going back. And then when I got to high school, there was a competition called the Rock Challenge, which is actually such a huge part of my life. I don't really get to speak about it much, but it essentially was a competition about a drug-free high. So you have to put together an 8-minute dance competition based on a theme. So the standard one was like dance around the ages, and you had to costume it, you had to do the soundtrack, you had to hair and makeup, you had to do all the set, you had to put on an 8-minute production. And my friend Jenny, best friend Jenny, was like, I'm off to this dance group with this woman called Jodie Doble. Do you fancy coming? And I was like, well, another club to go to, why not? And I've had quite a knack for it, and ended up doing that. Ended up then getting into drama, into the theatre side of things, and did that. And then Jodie had her own dance school, and we didn't have any money. Like I worked from like 11, 12 years old to bring money.
Doing paper rounds, car washing?
No, so 11, my brother's girlfriend at the time got me a job at Clayton Cottage Pet Hotel, just off Low Lane, mucking out the dogs in the kennels. £10 a day for 9 to 10 hours work, depending on the weather.
No minimum wage?
No, I was 11 or 12. And then I used to glass collect at the Tinsel and Cookeridge Club. I think it was like £2 an hour for that. Moved to £2.75. I did that for a bit whilst my mum was drinking with my best friend in the playing bingo. I'd glass collect. So I did that. And then between that I was doing the dancing with Jenny. And then, yeah, Jodie let me go dance at her dance school for like basically next to nothing. And my oldest brother's best friend's mum used to take me with her younger daughters. It was a really weird way how it came about. And then in sixth form, I moved to Bradford, to Thornton Grammar School, and did GCSE dance. And then I joined DM Academy in Shipley. And then finally went from there and did all my teaching qualifications as well, and all my exams, and danced all over the place, and was very fortunate to do lots of fun things with that.
Moulin Rouge?
No, not quite. But, you know, never say never. Never say never. But yeah, it was a bit of a curveball. And then when I went to university for the first time, I was still doing bits of dance teaching. I was still teaching dance and playing rugby. So I was doing the both, and I thought this is really cool because it's so random, isn't it? But yeah, to me, because I've always done loads of sports at a time, it never seemed too rogue to do them until you like step back and you think, actually, couldn't be much more random, could it? But I play, like, my friend would ring me and say I'm short for the Monday League netball to come down and play. So I was always doing. The thing I'm not very good at is golf and cricket.
You don't want to be involved in cricket in Yorkshire at the minute, anyway.
No.
You never fancy being a cheerleader or anything?
And then running on and playing?
I didn't think that question was...
I do have my level 2 qualifications in cheerleading coaching.
Proper sport.
I was a cheerleading coach for a bit. I have done a little bit of cheerleading at the BCA England Nationals. But that's part of the dancing. It came with part of the dancing, so that was part of the dance squad.
Safe to say it's not the usual route into not professional sport, because you don't get paid for it, but
no.
High-level elite sport.
So bloody random, isn't it? Like, it's so random,
but it's good, because that makes it a better story.
Well, it's just that's the way that I will try my hand at anything. Like, if friends give me a call and say, we need somebody to come and play. My friend plays hockey. Come and play hockey. I've padded up and been in golf. For my friend and stuff. I just try my hand at anything. I like being busy. I just like being busy. I've always has been. So I think it's never been that rogue a concept. I guess more now that I'm older and my body hurts a bit more. But yeah, it's just been the done thing, so it's never seemed...
So has the drama side helped with your burgeoning television career?
I can only say I assume so. I actually, believe it or not, used to be quite shy. But I think what actually helped with that is my name. So people used to say, what's your name? I'd be like, Danika. And I'm like, oh, how do you spell it? Where's it from? That's what, you know, and I would naturally have conversation brought about because of my name. Which always then helped with in social, so you know, going into social things. But I think the drama side of things, it's weird though, because if you put me on stage, and as a dancer, I could dance in front of the Queen and not be bothered. But singing and acting have always made me really super anxious, so weren't always my go-to. And I was Fräulein Schneider in Cabaret, and I've done various other roles, and have been Pocahontas, and I have done quite big roles, but I wouldn't say they're my favourite times. My favourite things are purely dancing at the Alhambra or the Royal Albert Hall. They're the things in Disneyland Paris. They're the ones in Disneyland Hong Kong. They're the things I remember and prefer the most. But yeah, I guess performance, isn't it? Like every time you do something, it's a performance. Just teaching's a performance, though, I think.
This is certainly a performance.
For you two, only the best.
So your new media career, you've taken to that like a duck to water. So I know you pay tribute to some people that have helped you along the way and given you the opportunity, but put you in front of a camera, presumably that is you dancing on a stage but just with a microphone talking about rugby?
Yeah, do you know, I was speaking about this a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said, you know, how do you deal with it, how do you feel about it? And I've got a bit like an imposter syndrome type of thing, if that makes sense.
We get it every time we do this show.
But like
for 20 years.
Yeah, it's a bit like, sometimes you're a bit like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Particularly the last one I did, the international on BBC, and it was a green screen one, with John, Wilkin and Tanya, and they were a little bit, like, Tanya who hasn't done, like, she hosts and stuff, but actual presenting, she just pitch side stuff, but even she was a bit like, I haven't done, and she really looks up to Mark Chapman, who was also there, do you know, and it's a line of people, and you kind of realise, actually, just because they do it all the time, or you think they do it all the time, actually this is quite new to them, and every day, I love learning, I love doing something new, and I love learning, and I think at the minute, that's what it is, it's everything I'm doing is new, and Ali McIntyre at the BBC is fantastic at, like, ringing me and giving me feedback, or texting me mid, kind of, like when I've been doing the commentating stuff and saying, just be careful of doing this. You've got to have quite a tough skin in the sense that they're just going to tell you they've got a product, haven't they? So I think because I'm quite resilient and because I like feedback, I prefer people being critical than I do. Praise is a funny thing, isn't it? Like, I don't...
You tend not to believe it.
That's the thing. Is like, and I've grown up in a not the most loving environment where criticism is just a given. So I think I receive that a lot better than I do. But I'm just learning so much, and you know, and they're like working with John Wilkin and doing the like all of the analysis side of stuff has just been really wicked. So at the minute, I'm super nervous about not letting people down when I do the TV stuff, and I'm also learning as well. So it's the excitement of learning and doing something brand new versus I'd really hate to let somebody down. And most importantly, I'm representing the girls and women's rugby league as well, I think, and that means that I don't want to upset the girls, but I want to be honest. So there's no point me going on and knowing what is going on. And I'm not saying, like, go and give the gossip, but having to be some level of being honest because I'm getting that actually isn't that easy for the women, or there are stuff going on. So I think there's, like, an underlying pressure to make sure that it's not all unicorns and rainbows as well in the women's game, if that makes sense, as much as the game is growing and it's great. So I think it's more, I'm really conscious about just doing a really good job for the other people rather than myself.
But you've got some fantastic opportunities coming up. The delayed World Cup at the time seemed like a disaster for all of us.
Yeah.
But it's given us another year to get you to do some more gigs and get more comfortable with the technology, and it must be exciting to think you could be commentating on something that you played in.
Yeah,
it's just
either like
really
commentating or pitch side or punditry or whatever it is, like to be involved in any... I'd sell programmes to be involved in the Rugby League World Cup. So to have a potential to actually...
I think they are looking for someone.
Well, no, but I would. Like, honestly, I would. Like, just to be a part of it would be wicked. But to be a part, which I deem quite a significant big part, like the game is going to be shown on the BBC. The women's game, all being well, will be on the BBC, you know, and all various other channels that it might stream onto it, and to be a part of that would be wicked, and to be that representative and do the girls a good service as well. You know, and it does mean that somebody's talking about them that know them. I'll have to do my research on Brazil or whatever, you know, there isn't much research out there, but you just want to do a really good service to somebody, and the fact I get to be involved is just mega. So I'm super excited. Like, there's now, you know, that's the bonus about not retiring. Maybe now I'm more available to do, you know, even with JD on BBC Radio Leeds, like I really love doing that with him. I think he's wicked. Like, I've worked with Dave Wood, which was just a phenomenal experience. You know, I'm working with people that I've looked up to. You know, when I was doing the first Sky Sports one that I did, and Brian McDermott kept on popping up just to check in, and he was listening to me, sat in his car, and instead of going into the vans, he sat in his car listening on the radio or on his phone or whatever it was to me, so he could come and give me feedback or text me feedback. And he took loads of pictures of me doing it. He was like, look, keep these pictures because this is the start of something. I just think, you know, there's people in this that I'm doing it with now, and Terry O'Connor walked past, he's like, oh, you're the one that did the West Wales Crusaders and Widnes game. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was my first commentating thing, and there was a single lens camera, and we were in a studio in Salford in a dark room. With an injury
that went on.
Yeah, there were so many things that, and he was like, I thought you did a really good job, and I was like, oh.
But you never shut up.
Yeah, that's the problem as well, isn't it? But sometimes it works in my favour, and sometimes not so much. That's what I mean, it's learning, isn't it?
I think what's important is, you're working with very good people wherever you're working, which is not something that everyone gets the opportunity to do, and you're obviously willing to take on criticism, which I don't think everyone does as well, and evolve and
get your own style.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
Going back to that West Wales game, what was that like? Because obviously it was not necessarily a high-profile thing, but a lot of people watching, there was some criticism of you talking, and it is going to be, because you know we do this ourselves, you are yourself out there. People are criticising you in a sense. Yeah,
and I think, like I say, I prefer the criticism over the praise, but also I'm hypercritical on myself anyway.
Yeah.
And my own worst enemy at times. But yeah, it was. If I'm honest with you, it was such a daze. I was more nervous than I've ever been for any occasion in my life, because it was, you know, there was a lot of pressure from the BBC saying this is our only stream, this is the only thing that's going out, this is a single lens camera. We need this, we need that. And like the likes of Tanya that have been supporting me, and I didn't want to let her down, and then you're not saying things right, and then I've got the producers texting me saying, make sure you say the full name, or, you know, and you forget about the things like, when I talk about Rudgie or Jodie, you need to remember that I have to talk about Emily Rudge or Jodie Cunningham, and it's the same type of thing, isn't it? You need to remember that you have to imagine you're speaking to people who haven't maybe seen the game or don't know the players. There's so many tiny little things that you need to take into consideration. So yeah, it was a rough Friday. There was lots of people that were like, she needs to shut up more, and I was like, well, there's a 12-minute delay, what do you want, silence? But if I was to argue it and try and answer everyone back, I'd just be my own worst enemy, wouldn't I? So yeah, it was such a mega occasion for me, and I was so nervous and then because it was such a difficult game to do, and everyone who was involved was texting me going, oh my gosh, like, you've been handed a real card there, because what a game to try and do. And I was like, I'm glad that people are recognising that and how difficult it was. So
as long as you listen to the right people who are,
yeah, exactly,
right.
Yeah.
The problem is
you can't help but search your name on Twitter afterwards and see the crap that's been said about you.
And a lot of people don't have a bloody clue what it entails. I'm not saying it's, you know, brain surgery. There is a level of skill and ability that you need to be able to do it.
It's weird, isn't it? Because like doing the games for the men and the championship and the men's challenge cup, the criticism that I get there, I don't actually mind too much. It's when I get criticised on doing the women's game, and I'm like, I actually know these women. I'd never say anything to offend or upset them.
Well, that's a difficult line you've got to cross now, isn't it? Not in terms of offending people, but you have to be at times critical of what they do on the field.
And sometimes the girls won't agree with me, and that's fine, because I'm criticising their playing, isn't it? It's like if I was to play and somebody would say, oh, she was rubbish at this, she should have passed this, she should have done that. It's exactly the same, because you just think, don't you, when you're on the field, well, you get on and do it. I'm essentially doing that now to the girls, but I'm also doing it to myself if people are commenting on what, you know, are commenting on what I'm saying. So it's a bit of a cyclical kind of thing, isn't it? But
the honesty is always the best policy. So when England played France the other week, the other week, it's probably a few months now.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great overall performance by
England. It was awful.
So whatever the result was, particularly that first 20 minutes, and there may have been extenuating circumstances of them flying out on the day and not being used to it, but they didn't start the game particularly well.
No.
And if you'd have said, all my friends are doing a really good job, your credibility would immediately have been undermined. So you have to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what, like, I have been told that before, and I've said things like, the first time I did Super League show, I did it with John Keir. It was just great, because what that man doesn't know about rugby, is the absolute oracle of rugby in terms of, like, on the field stuff. So I'd say something and be like, yeah, that's great. And then I remember one point in the Super League show, he used my comment, and I was like, no, it's just meant to be the other way round. But that to me is huge. Like, it's massive because he would do that. And then John Wilkin, I said, when we were watching it, I was saying a few things, and he was like, yeah, say that, but maybe not like that. And you've got to be honest, haven't you? Because, like you say, it's one of those things, but...
Not everyone is, though.
No.
There was plenty of coverage in that game, which was England have won by, was it 49?
40 points to 4.
Yeah, but the
which
thing,
I
reckon,
thought was a disappointing scoreline.
Yeah.
And we can say that on here, but somewhere...
There was no score for 20 minutes, and they were going down one end. He's definitely got a game plan that focused on 5 main players. Like that, to ignore that, it's just making myself look a mug.
But also, you're there to analyse it for us, who don't realise that.
Yeah.
In terms of highlights on the field, which links into the World Cup, I would presume getting on a plane and going to Australia and playing in a World Cup must have been an amazing transformational moment in your life.
Yeah, it's really weird because the World Cup was such a blur. I'd got injured. I played for England in June. We'd had a double header against France in France for the week, test week. And I remember coming back from France thinking, there is no way he can't pick me for the World Cup after that performance. And I've never felt more on top of my game. I'm not very positive about myself. Like, I can run with the ball really hard, and I know I'm difficult to get down. But in terms of how I played and the length of minutes I played and the effectiveness on the pitch I played, particularly in the second test match. And he kept me on for the whole 40 in the second half, which for a prop in 30-odd degrees heat. And I knew I was fit, and I knew I was like... I felt really great about myself, and I think that was is possibly the highlight of my career, just knowing coming off a pitch and knowing you could not give any more. It is such a rare feeling. And I remember Chris saying to me, if you continue to play like this for a season, you've got your shirt. You've got your shirt. And I was just like, brilliant. And then 2 weeks later, I tore my ACL. And then I remember going to the hospital, and then I remember, because Chris came to a Bradford Bull session, we'd done the 2 hours, and it was in the 1 hour and 58 minutes. Random Marshall tackled me, just as standard, but we'd been working on tackle tech. And you heard it, and I sat down, and I remember thinking, there's the key signs for an ACL is automatic swelling, bruising, and heat. And I remember, I can't remember, I didn't have one of the 3, so I remember thinking, no, you're fine, you're fine. And I remember Chris doing the same, have you got A, B, and C? And I was like, no, Chris, I haven't got the C, I haven't got the C. And we were both like, yeah. But we were both like, nah. And it was one of those really weird moments where I don't remember being in pain. I remember being absolutely devastated. I remember just... Because I never had a proper... I'd done my ankle, but I was out of season, so it was kind of... Wasn't as bad as... I was on the World Cup year, and I was on, honestly, the best form of my life. I was weighing in really well. I was really... I was such... a rugby league geek. I was loving my training. I was loving getting up at 5 o'clock and going to the gym. I was really, like, in terms of how much I was loving everything about it, I was the peak. And I just remember being absolutely devastated. And as it was a Wednesday night, and I remember getting in the car. My friend had to come and pick me up because I couldn't drive. And getting in the car, and as my leg was down, it was getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, no, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to get it checked. And then Chris said to me, you must go tonight and you must ring me with the results. And I was like, we know what the results are. But I was like, yeah, no worries, we'll be fine. And I remember writing the text to the girls being like, my key line has always been, it's still attached, no worries. I didn't know if it was. Long story short, I ended up going for the knee clinic like less than a week later, and by chance seeing the actual surgeon. Normally you see the registrar or the nurse or whatever, and I remember seeing the surgeon by chance, and I remember wearing my England shorts, and I remember sat there going, I'm pretty much in a World Cup squad, I need you to fix me. And he was like, it's not looking good. And I was like, I need you to do what you can. This is NHS, by the way, so it's not private, it's completely NHS. And he was like, might well just book you in for an arthroscopy. And I was like, what? And he was like, let's get in there. And I was like, eh? And went to the next kind of counter, it's not a counter, but do you know what I mean, the next area, and getting my thing. And it was like, it was 14 weeks from the date of my operation to the date of the flight of the World Cup. And I had an MRI, and he said, I'll give you the MRI results on the day of your operation. So the morning of the operation, went in for the pre-op stuff. And he went, it's not looking great. And I was like, don't tell... You know, they're like surgeons are a little bit autistic, aren't they? They've got no emotion, they've just got a job to do. So he was like, it's not looking great. If you come out of the operation without a brace on, there's a chance. But I can't tell you until I get in there. And I was like, huh. I remember waking up, and I remember the first thing I was doing, I was like, right, I don't have a brace on. And I remember like trying to wake up from my anaesthetic. Well, what's going on? He was like, you've got 6 weeks to prove to me you don't need an ACL reconstruction. I've sewn it back together for you. Rang up Chris, and I was like, Chris, I'm fine. He's sewn me back together. I've just got to strengthen it up. And I remember Chris saying, you have got 14 weeks. He said, but you don't, because I need to make my selection in 10 weeks' time. 10 days later, I was on the bike. Never, ever. And I lost any sense of reality. I lost any sense of social ability. I lived and breathed training and rehab. I did nothing. I cancelled weddings. I didn't go to parties. I didn't drink a drop of alcohol. I ate like, honestly, like bloody Rocky. It was pure chicken, no flavourings. It was a bit of rice. It was just psychotic, genuinely psychotic, how I did it. So the build up to the World Cup was so intense. And I remember going to Huddersfield Giants, and me, Emily Rudge, Jodie Cunningham and Jenny Wellesby all had to go for this. And they were all... Jenny and Jodie done their ACLs.
I'm saying Jodie playing that World Cup without an ACL.
Yeah, so did Jenny Wellesby. And Emily had done her MCL, but only partial. I remember the four of us being there, and I was the last one because I was the freshest of the injuries, if that makes sense. And I remember being... And they're looking at these, doing all this testing. I was like, I can't do any of that yet. I can't do any of that. This is it. I'm done. I remember Alex Morel, who then went on to be head physio for Rhinos, was the World Cup physio, and he was just like, Danika, you can't do this. And I was like, Alex, give me another week. Give me another week. I've got this. I can do it. He was like, no, I'm not allowing you to do the jumping. And I was like, Alex, give me another week. I've got it. I promise you I've got it. And I cheated my way into the World Cup, I think. In the sense that I shouldn't have gone. I wasn't fit enough in my leg. I was fit enough physically and cardiovascularly. But as for my knee wasn't fit enough to be in the World Cup. And my first bit of contact was walking out against Papua New Guinea. And I remember a tweet went out, and I was tagged in a tweet, and Sam Burgess replied to my tweet just before we went to warm up for the Papua New Guinea game. And I remember thinking, if you don't switch on now, Sam Burgess just tweeted you, like, if you don't switch on now, that you've missed the best opportunity you possibly can, so you have to get everything out of your head. And I remember walking out of the tunnel, and they changed everything. The pitch was marked up in Women's World Cup. The streets there were flags. Do you know, the ball was Women's World Cup. Everything. I remember just being like, there was a few choice words that were going through my head. I'm in a World Cup. I remember starting to cry before the national anthem even came on. But I was like, I can't cry now because that's losing my head. And we were always taught that you had to be so switched on. Yeah, and I just remember the first hit from a woman from Papua New Guinea and thinking, you should not be here. But it was like a fight or flight type of thing, and I had to fight. I had to really fight. But yeah, I wasn't as good as I should have been, and I wasn't as good as maybe another prop would have been. But we were really quite short on numbers, so I was quite fortunate in that respect that there actually weren't that many props around at the time. So being in the World Cup was incredible, but it was so shadowed by... I didn't believe I should have been there.
It's so hard for us to, and I'm sure most people out there who are watching and listening to understand that mindset, because there's no point in... You know, I can only speak about my life, right? So I've been on the radio for 20 odd years. The only thing that would stop me doing my job is losing my voice or something, or being an idiot and saying something stupid. But I think I can stop myself doing that. Whereas if I lost my voice, you know, I can't work.
Yeah.
But that's just the thing that can be, you know, fixed with some strepsils or whatever. I can't put myself in that position where, and yeah, I find it hard to talk about your cricket. It's so short. Everything is in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
That if it doesn't happen at this point, and this point, and this point, then all the other stuff doesn't happen afterwards.
Yeah.
It's a really strange career you've had.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. That's what I mean. This imposter syndrome type of thing is that it shouldn't have happened either. It shouldn't have happened. That's the thing. It's kind of those sliding doors moments, isn't it? Because I'm bloody stubborn. I'm really stubborn. And I don't know, honestly, like I think back to that World Cup year, and I wasn't not a nice person. I was never nasty. I was just so bloody blinkered to anything else. Selfish, quite selfish in the sense that I had to go, but how many people have been in a World Cup? Do you know what I mean? Like that was one of the things. How many people have been in a World Cup? And I say like I shouldn't have been there. I'm so grateful I went out. I flew to Australia. There were 2 girls that flew out in the squad that didn't even get any game time. You know, they were water girls twice. I didn't actually put on a shirt. They don't have a World Cup shirt because I never wore one. You know, I've got 2, and I'm so grateful, so grateful to even be a part of it that I can't describe. But it was intense. Like we flew out Friday night, having just chatted with Paul Anderson and Kev Sinfield. We were given the strictest flight plan in the sense that Manchester to Dubai, we weren't allowed to sleep. Get to Dubai, and it's either 3:30 a.m. England time. It's like 6:30 a.m. Dubai time, but it's actually 2:30 p.m. Australia time, and we had to adjust to Australian time. So I remember being sat in Dubai airport like, oh, obviously the struggle's real, and anybody who was like fading was like, get up and have a walk. And then the flight to Dubai to Sydney, again, like up and walk at this point, eat at this point, make sure you drink this, don't eat this. Landed.
So you didn't do David Boone trick of 52 cans on the trip out there?
I bloody well would have had a good time, I tell you. Never have I ever felt like a 14 hours has gone so slowly in my life. But because you're being made to feel like you have to do stuff, you're conscious about your ankle swelling. We were all wearing skins, which are not comfortable enough as it is, but for 24 hours, that, you know, it was a nightmare. But we landed in Sydney at 7:30 in the morning. We went from Sydney Airport to Manly training ground, and by 11:30, 12, we were on the pitch. Training, ready to play for the Thursday at night. And in that time, we did the official launch, which was on a Tuesday morning, so we got the Tuesday afternoon, and by afternoon, I mean, we got from 1 till about 6 to go and explore. So I just got the slow ferry across and did like Darling Harbour and made sure I did the Opera House and the bridge, and then went across, and it was one of those real moments where I can't. So a lot of the girls had got the speedboat over because they wanted to just get over to the beach, and I was like, me and Claire Garner were like, let's just sit and let's just have a moment. We've got one afternoon off. We didn't know when our next afternoon was going to be off. So we sat on this slow boat. We sat at the front, a bit like that whole Kate Winslet, Leonardo DiCaprio moment from Titanic, but we were just sat next to each other rather than... Yeah. And she just was like, went past the Opera House under the bridge. We were all like, right, this is it. We went past Luna Park, all the things you see on the TV. And then she just went, oh no. And then there was just this set of dolphins just swimming by us, and we were both like, we're in Australia in a World Cup. Bloody hell. You know, it was one of those real... Had I got the fast boat, we never would have had that real appreciation moment. A real moment of appreciation that there were 23 girls that had managed to get on the flight to Australia. You know, and how many people would wish to do that. So it was a real moment of like, not only, you know, regardless of whether we play or not, we need to appreciate the fact that we were selected after 23 to be here and to come across the side, you know, other side of the world. So a fantastic moment. Just as a career highlight, I've played in a World Cup, but that'll never ever be taken away from me.
Is that appreciation and an understanding of how important it was to get there in the journey, and obviously you had a difficult journey to get there with your knee. Is that appreciation? Does that make it harder when you're not part of the England setup anymore?
Yeah, like so really hard, really difficult. So I think I've played 7 times for England.
I mean, that's a whole. Many men won't get that chance because we only play about 2 games every bloody 4 years or whatever. So 7's quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
give you a golden cap.
Nearly, but not quite. And every single time has been like, even like when you do a test week and you play 2 games in, like I remember every single game. I remember every single moment. I remember every single national anthem, and that's because I'm super proud to play for my country, but B, genuinely do feel really privileged to have the opportunity to do it. You know, and to not have retired from the international game myself, but to be told I was too old, was gutting. Was really gutting. So I got a phone call in 2018. We'd just played the warm up game to Castleford, and we'd lost 24-0 or 24-4 or something. I was vice captain of a brand new Leeds Rhino squad. I'd started rehab, I'd been looked after really well in the pre-season for Leeds, so my knee was much better and feeling super strong, and I was being really well looked after there, but consistently. So it was a bit like, it felt like the next level up, and I felt like, I'm going to go back to where I was in 17 and I'm going to be that fit again. I got a phone call from Dave Elliott. We've gone from a different angle this year, we're going for a younger development squad. We might want you to still be involved, but we don't know for definite. We're not going to have you train on the squad. And I was like, I'm not doing that thing again where I don't train, but you want me to play the international. It's not fair on the girls that do play the international, do train. And he was like, basically, I've been told you don't want to play anymore. And I was like, I've just vice captain Leeds Rhinos and it was more that thing where it was a bit like, this seems a little bit
not on the level.
Yeah, and I remember ringing Chris Chapman going, what the hell? What? And he was like, it's out of my hands. And at the time I was a bit like, I'd had a bit of a rough ride when I was out in the World Cup in terms of getting we got quite a lot of stick from back home, from our own teammates at Bradford Bulls. So I was in a bit of a weird place about it, hence why I didn't want to play rugby again, and Lois had made me love my game again. She'd made me get involved, and genuinely playing with those Leeds Rhinos girls made me love the game again, because flying home from the World Cup I was ready to pack it in.
But the success that you had quite quickly at Leeds must have, again, you talk about age, must have reinvigorated you, made you feel young again, because A, it can't be planned, but B, you suddenly want to be part of something, because you're seeing the women's game develop, that perhaps even when you were at the World Cup you're going, I can see where the Aussies are going, and they might have played for a lot longer and they could be a bit fitter than we are, and they've got access to better facilities, although it wasn't quite where it is at the moment. And you come back and suddenly you're part of a Super League idea, and you're playing at a consistently higher level week in, week out, but the success attached to it as well. That it must have been quite a reinvigoration.
Do you know what it was? The best thing is that prior to Leeds Rhinos, prior to the Super League, women's rugby was quite incestuous, for want of a better word. And it was all the same coaches that did it, that moved around the clubs. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew the girls, particularly in the Super League, or what was the top 4 at the time in 17. So in 2018, I remember sat at the first meeting for Leeds Rhinos. And there was me, Lois, Sharbuth, Amy Staveley, and then Rhiannon Marshall. And then I'd known the likes of Tash and Sophie from Stanley, but they'd only played Stanley. There was a girl called Megan that I used to teach at Thornton, dance to, and she was there, and I remember looking around the room going, shit, we're going to get, this is rough, are we sure we're doing the right thing? We've just stepped down from being treble winners, undefeated, in 2017, to come up off the back of a World Cup where we did relatively alright, considering the time we got to train, to Adam Cuthbertson, who was a Leeds Rhinos player, but is he a coach? Is he any good at coaching? Has he ever coached in England? He hadn't coached in England. He'd not done any coaching. Chev Walker was a little bit involved in it. I rate him a bit. And then the Gibbons twins, and I was like, who? Not who, but have they coached? And coaching men is totally different to coaching women. I remember thinking, this is a really rogue move, but it's the best move I ever made, and it made me love my game again, because everyone had to get to know everybody. There was no egos. There was no, when you go and play Bradford, you knew that X, Y and Z were the stand-up players, and when you play York, do you know what I mean? When you go to a team now, you look for R, X, Y and Z playing. Whereas at that time in Leeds, there wasn't that. Yeah, there was Lois, who we all knew was great, but what is Lois without a backup, without the contingency, We had...
Allegra's got the coffee.
We had like different halves in that nobody had heard of, so it was really like, thank you very much. It was so refreshing, and then we'd lost the warm-up game to Castleford, but even bouncing back off that, the way that we lost it and the feedback from that was different to anything I'd ever had. So instead of being berated for losing and not playing,
that's you.
20
At Disney.
I'm 20. Yeah, we weren't berated for losing. We were just like, right, let's build, and it was so. And again, oh my gosh, don't put them near me.
It's Christmas.
Take them off me.
You're retired. You can't.
No, absolute no way. My stomach will go mental.
No lightning spice.
We'll just leave them there in case.
Delicately balanced. Yeah, and I just remember, again, that was 2018, I was playing the first half of the season, and I was getting back to form, and I was really loving my rugby. The Leeds had put in such a massive effort with us. We felt part of the squad. We were getting free tickets to games. We were being noticed by people. It was like a whole different world. Stash, yeah. But not just Stash, but coaches. And can I remember that first game against Bradford, and they did that whole promo about rivalry reignited, and it was me and Lois in the changing rooms at Leeds versus Kirsty and Beth in the changing rooms at Bradford. And the whole stern look, fold your arms, look down the camera. And then I remember the BBC being there, I remember Sky Sports being there. I remember Adam pulling me and Lois and saying, look, we're about to get on the coach, but BBC want to interview, and Sky Sports want to interview you. Are you both mentally alright to do that? Are you both, both of us been like, yeah, not realising the size of it or what it was going to be, but a bit like, we're the captain and vice captain, is that our job? But it actually picked us because he thought that we probably would ones that actually handle it the best. And then getting to Bradford and the men were playing before us, and the men did the guard of honour for us to come out. There was still quite a lot of Bradford fans there, loads of VRFL were there, and then winning, like we'd just beaten the treble winning undefeated team, and they had lost, everyone like, you were all Judas, you left Bradford. No, we'd left.
You are like York before York.
Shut up. At least I did it at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, I said it.
Getting banned. They won't be coming on this show again now.
It's your loss. Actually, it's probably a benefit of everybody else. But yeah, I remember it just being, and I remember winning, and me and Lois, I remember crying. I remember actually crying at the end because, it's risky being there. We were
just Phil about to cry if I had sleep.
Yeah, no. Put them
See
there.
how quick I was then to catch the mince pies.
I'll pop them there. You can still reach them, can't you?
Stop me.
Yeah, we were meant to lose, or we weren't meant to win. We were the underdogs. It was a massive occasion, and we won pretty comfortably. And I just remember thinking, we've got so much shit. Like, there were people shouting Judas from the stands.
That's uneducated Bradford people for you. We don't like them.
It's just a bit of banter, isn't it, though, as well? Like, in a way, it is a bit banter. Yeah, and at the time, we were the biggest move. Now all this controversy of the politics of moving, actually, maybe me and Lois started that off. You know what I mean? Like,
trailblazers.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were, to ACLs and retirements. How's me going?
Well, yeah, because you mentioned after the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people, not as many anymore because people don't watch this program anymore, but when we used to have like thousands of viewers and people used to slag us off on social media and stuff. So I've got my wife, she just bats them all off now, so it's alright. She's like a defence force in me. Because some I take personally, some I don't. People haven't got my hair, it's fine, it's crap, isn't it? But, But when if I was getting criticism from, or abuse rather, from people I play with, I work with, Phil sent me a message, crap now, or whatever. How do you get through that? Because that's something, again, it's okay getting abuse from Bradford fans calling you Judas or whatever, because it's part and parcel of the thing. But that seems to be beyond comprehension.
We just played Cook Islands, and we just lost it. We were awful, and I remember we finished the game. We went back to the hotel, and we got called up to the team meet, and we were all like, "Shh," you know what I mean? Like, we already knew we were awful. We already knew. Nobody needed to tell us. And the worst thing is that you're in a World Cup, so you genuinely do feel like you've let your country down. It's a really weird feeling, and I never thought that would actually be a genuine burden. You know, you've heard people say it in the past, like you've heard people on TV and you're a bit like, oh, that's heavy. Genuinely, you are representing the country. So we've gone back and we've got into this. The only thing I can say, and I haven't stayed in that room, but there was basically a circle of truth, and there was like a hockey ball, and if you were holding the hockey ball, you could speak truly and openly about anybody in that room. It was brutal. It was brutal. So we had hammered each other mere hours after that game, to the point where, so we were in the Olympic Village. Our hotel was in the Olympic Village with the Kiwis. And we'd find the Kiwis around the back of they weren't allowed any fizzy pops or anything like that. We'd find them around the back of the hotel. They had half and we had half. Not half, but we had halves. And we'd find them around the back of our team room, sipping on a can of Fanta or some fizzy pop, and being like, we'd walk past and they'd be like, shh. We were like, no, that's fine.
It's like the Allies and the Axis playing football on Christmas.
We were in different pools at the time, so we were pals. We even caught a couple smoking, just saying. Controversy. But I remember them being like, do you want anything? Should we get you anything? Do you want anything? We were all like, no, we weren't ever banned from having anything, but we had the respect of each other that we weren't going to have it. And we had McDonald's underneath. Now, McDonald's did, for the first time I'd ever seen it, a Coca-Cola slushie. I don't particularly drink fizzy drinks, but the idea of a Coca-Cola slushie from McDonald's. So we'd had this circle of truth. And Chris just went, go out and get whatever you want to eat. So there was, the only thing we weren't allowed is the sushi, just in case fish, we had to be careful because we were back in training the next day. He said, but go and have a bit of a binge. So a lot of the girls went and got a burger from McDonald's. And now, every meal was planned for us. Every meal, like I was told what to eat for breakfast. I was told how much meat or fish or whatever. Like, we were calculated. So to go out and be able to have a blowout in the middle of the World Cup was a little bit like crazy. And I went and had a Coca-Cola slushie. I didn't have anything too rogue. Maybe they have this chocolate bar called a Chiquito chocolate bar. Honestly, it's the best chocolate bar.
You didn't have like 10 double Big Macs or anything?
No, that's what I mean. I didn't even go crazy. And I remember I was all going to bed. And I woke up the next morning and I looked at my phone and there's loads of messages. So we had, at Bradford Bulls, we had a group, a messenger group. So there must have been 30 people in it, including coaches. And the coach at the time had come out to Australia to watch the World Cup. And he'd been coming to our games. And I woke up to a message, and honest to God, I've still got the screenshot. I do not know why. I've still got it.
Because we keep these things for reasons.
And one of my very own teammates said, Danika, were you offering sexual favours to the coach to get into that squad? And I remember, honest to God, even to say it now, it makes me feel physically sick. And I remember just lying in their bed. And the thing is that the message was so irrelevant, and from the person it was, like, I still get stick off their partner on Facebook. I'm not friends with him, but he still writes, take your time to write a comment about me. Do you know what I mean? Like, your energy, you waste your energy on me if you want. But it was vile. But the worst part about it is that I knew there were 30 girls in that group that saw that message, and I knew that 10 of them were in my squad. So I knew that, 9 of them because I was a 10th, but I knew 9 of them were downstairs. And I was sharing a room with Emily Rudge, and she got me to be coming down for breakfast, and we had to be down at 8:30 every morning to do our wellness and check-in. So we had to go down and take, some mornings was urine samples, but every morning we had to go weigh in, we had to do 3 tests, and we had to do a wellness check-in. If you were late, you were never late, you were always 5 minutes early. Being 2 minutes early was already late. If you were on time, you were late. So the rule was 5 minutes. I remember lying then, I was always first. When I'd go down, I'd get myself a coffee before anybody else was down there, get my check-in really early, and go sit on the balcony. And I've got the balcony picture that I took as a canvas in my room, because it was a moment of, like, my morning clarity was about an hour and a half before the rest of the girls. I remember not being able to get out of bed, and Rudgy was a bit like, you alright? And I was like, yeah, mate. She was like, you alright? I was like, I don't feel very great. And that's what I said, and she just left it. I remember not being able to get out of bed, and I text Garner saying I can't come down, like I daren't come. I was so embarrassed by it. And Kirsty Maroney came and knocked on my door because she was in the group, and she was like, mate, we've got you back. That's, she said a lot of things about it. And I remember walking down, and I'm sure the girls never did, but and then by that point everyone knew, because everyone had, like, Chinese whispers, hadn't it? And I felt like people felt sorry for me, if that makes sense. I remember just walking into breakfast and just feeling like everyone was staring, even the Kiwi girls that didn't know anything about it. I just felt like the world was staring at me. And obviously, none of us had played particularly well, but it was just one of those moments where I was like, absolutely devastated. And to this day, I still am. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. And a few of the girls were like, we've got you back. Like, she's this, she's that, we've got you back. And I was like, and you know at the time, and Jade, who was our team manager at the time, she was like, do you want to come for a walk? And I was like, can we not talk? Like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not very good with emotions at the best of time, but public emotions I'm even worse with. So I was like, in order for me to get through this morning without crying, I need you to not speak about it. And it took Chris a whole day, which I was a bit gutted about, to come and speak to me about it. So 24 hours. And he took me out on the balcony and I was like, right, here goes. I'm either going to break or I'm going to keep it together. And I remember him taking it out and being like, are you okay? And I was like, nah. And he said, the training session, I couldn't train very well. And he said I hadn't trained very well, so therefore I wasn't playing against the Kiwis in the semi-final. And it probably wasn't just down to that message. It was probably down to my performance as well. But I still blame that message for not making the semi-final squad.
So you said something really interesting on retirement, and we'll talk about how retirement might have affected you.
Mm-hmm.
The transition.
Yeah.
Because even though you know something's coming, it ain't easy.
Yeah.
But you said something, I think, on social media, or even in your column it might have been, Rugby League saved my life.
Yeah, big time.
But you've never elaborated on that. Now, I don't know whether now is the time to do that, having talked about that.
No, like, yeah, really weird. So I was really big at the time. I'd put on loads of weight, and I was playing rugby. I was in a relationship at the time. We'd got a house together. We were pretty much en route for the whole marriage and things. We've been together 13 years. So we're essentially a lifetime, isn't it, at that age? And
a significant other.
Yeah, and probably a year prior to break, well, probably a lot longer than that, we should have definitely parted ways. It was massively amicable, but the February 15 was when Chris gave me the call, and it was the kick up the butt that I needed. I was in a bit of a... I'd never ever look back and say I was ever depressed or I was ever anything like that, because I've always been either plateau or really happy. I've never ever done emotion. And I hadn't registered that I'd put on loads of weight until you look back and you're like, bloody hell. And it literally was Chris that just said, you're too fat. Nobody'd ever said that to me before. I was a woman, so that was never a given. But he just was like, you're too big to play Rugby League. You're too fat to play Rugby League. And I was like, that's savage. But it literally was the boot up the butt I needed. And then, yeah, by the August, I'd kind of gone, we're not getting on, are we? Should we just part? And it was so amicable. I'd got a new focus. I'd got a new drive. And it was kind of like really refreshing. And don't get me wrong, like getting playing Rugby League, getting into England squad straight away. I was playing for Stanley at the time. I remember playing Bradford, as was Thunderbirds then. And I remember the people at the side of the pitch saying, I didn't realise they had street rats playing for England now. And I was like, what is this? So I've had stick ever since day dot. And I remember somebody coming up to change room going, who's Danika? And I was like, it's me. You know what I'm like? Hey, how's it all doing? They're like, yeah, be careful, you're going to get your face knocked off in this game. And I was like, what? And I was getting punched in rucks because I got into the England development squad, and a couple of the props had been let go because they weren't pulling their weight, but they just assumed that I'd come in and taken their spot. And the only way I could have done that is because I was sleeping with the head coach, obviously, because that's the only possible way that I could have been ever any good at rugby. I've slept my way to the top. And now, yeah, do you know why I got into Rugby League? Because Chris Chapman's ex-partner, I taught with her at Thornton. So he knew of me through her. And he knew, that I played rugby union, and he came to watch me play rugby union. So yeah, if it's as incestuous as you want it to get. But it was like one of my best friend's partners, and that's as close as we got, and I've been round to his house for dinner. So yeah, there was a little bit in that, but I've never hidden that. But they were like, I don't know how crude I'm allowed to be.
Say whatever you want.
They were like, stuff about giving him just sexual favours. They were shouting everything that I'd done to him, and calling me a street rat, and I got called a rah-rah
Well, I mean,
That's
in fairness,
very rugby
in
league.
fairness,
That's
yeah,
very rugby league.
That's fine.
But at the
No,
time,
you
can you
were.
imagine?
Yeah.
The second
You're
biggest
right.
council estate in Leeds, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it don't matter.
come from absolute poverty, and I'm like, that's me.
Rah, rah, rah. Yeah.
So from the word go, I'd kind of, but I'd learned. I was so happy in having this new focus that it was kind of like I was getting people making fake accounts and sending me messages. Like,
Oh, that's
It was
that's
sa-
a
no, but
road
that's what
rugby
I
league
mean.
thing, yeah.
it was savage. And I look back now and I just think, and there's points where one of the girls said to me, "We need to get the police involved soon if this doesn't stop." And I was like, "No, I'm not going to be that person. Like, just ignore it." But it never went. It never ever ever went away. Like, I think.
But you still say it saved your life.
Yeah, but it's really weird because I was a brand new person for it. I'd lost loads of weight. I was feeling better about myself. I'd broken up from a relationship that I wasn't unhappy about breaking up from, but I'd 13 years of my life, and the particular last 8 where we'd had a house together and we were living and we were a family, you know, and doing family things. You know, whole family. Like, I don't have I've got a big family, but I'm not actually very close to them, so I don't speak to my parents. I loosely speak to. I speak to one of my brothers. We're very, very close, but the other two, we very loosely speak. You know, they text message every 8 months or whatever. But I'm not. You know, I don't see them at Christmases or anything like that. So I'd had this new kind of family that I'd made and been into, and I kind of found my way. And I was the first time living on my own from. We together when I was 17, 18. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was. It was a whole lifetime. And it just changed my whole perspective on things. And I found a new love and I found a new interest in something. And there's lots of times where I could have gone off a different pathway, which wouldn't have been as healthy for me or whatever. But I had always had something. I had something to work for. I had a purpose. And that's the only thing I can describe it as. I haven't had the greatest upbringing. I don't remember my mum being very forthcoming with any emotional hugs or anything like that, nor my dad or
Which
anything.
again is amazing considering the work you're doing now, which is effectively to give people emotional hugs.
Yeah, well, it is really weird because I teach a lot of kids now that I look back and I think, oh, bloody hell, I was you. You know, and at the time, when you're growing up in it, you don't know any different, so it just is the norm. And I remember for the first time really having a purpose and really having something to work for, and it's that feeling very proud of myself. And playing for Stanley and getting into England was a real thing. And then got me speaking to my brother, like my oldest brother Carl. He was like, "You've done my dream, you've played for England." And we started having a bit more of a relationship, and I was talking to my little brother more, and it was just a really it's just a lot of things have happened in rugby league that I can't really articulate, not because I don't want to, but I just genuinely, I can't explain them. But
it has been quite cruel to you as well, because for all of the successes, of which there are many, there's been injuries at crucial times as well that meant you miss some stuff. So not only is it the World Cup, but Leeds are establishing themselves, are starting to win things. You're in rehab again.
Yeah. May the 27th, 2018, 65th minute, Headingley, in defence, snapped. But I think all of that, like, when I say that rugby league, the Leeds Rhinos girls are my family, I genuinely mean it. Like, there's not... It's like Sophie Robinson. Like, we were super close, you know, and she'll always be a good friend of mine because she'd come out of her way to come and pick me up or make sure I was getting out. Like, Claire Garner and I were friends because of rugby. Like, we played at West Park together, but we got each other through the World Cup and afterwards and stuff. And even when she was playing for Cass, you know, we were still really good friends. And I've built a family of people around there that genuinely have my back, which is something I've never had. It's a really weird concept to kind of, because you put a lot of onus on that, but yeah, genuinely, I can't explain to it. But it's given me a purpose. It's given me something. It's given me successes. It's made me feel proud of myself, which is such a rogue feeling because I'd never had. Like, I went to university, and as a part of my family, I was seen as like It wasn't the best thing for my family for me to do. It was kind of seen as I was too snobby. I want to be better than them. And if that's the case, like, you know, even my successes as a young adult weren't celebrated. So, whereas rugby league, you don't just celebrate; your whole team celebrates, and then you've got people like you guys that have celebrated it and made the game. So yeah, there's been loads of things. I just Definitely would have gone down a different path in 15 had I not had Rugby League.
Secret Rhino support, that's the problem.
Yeah, well...
Because I kept doubting you.
Doubting me, yeah.
Every single
So
time.
basically I spent my last 5 years proving you wrong.
Yeah, and then I was right in the end. The Saints did beat you.
Oh, shut up.
When Leeds won that Challenge Cup final then in 2018, which is, as I've mentioned before, the highlight of my career, right?
I didn't see you playing.
No. I'll never be able to top that. I will never be able to top that.
Well, you wore a tie, didn't you?
I know.
I was just about to say, remember what you were wearing.
It's difficult to articulate because during lockdown last year, I wasn't working. And I had the feeling that might be it for my career. As it is, I'm working again and, whatever. But I'm never going to be able to top that. So it's a moment that always sticks in my mind. And I think, I've achieved something.
It's all relative though, isn't it?
Yeah. But you're obviously having to watch from the sidelines. How is that when, obviously you want your team to win. As you say, they're second family or whatever. But you're not out there.
I really, really struggled. I remember that day. So Leanna texted me saying, "Do you want to do the Instagram story?" And she was really good at the time of keeping me busy. Little did I realise that I probably shouldn't have done it because I went with my blinkers on again, like I do for a lot of things. I'd written all the girls a little, like a tag, like a gift tag. It was a brown gift tag, and I'd written all the girls an individual. No, I'd gone full hog. I'm not playing, but I'm going to make sure that everyone has the best day possible. And I'd gone, and I was going 1,000 miles an hour all morning, making sure everyone was fine. Like, we went for breakfast at Wheatwood. I was doing Instagram stories. Callum was up there. Lois was there. Like, I was throwing myself headfirst into the day, the occasion. They made it what was the Leeds runners. Men were coming down after their team run because they were at Bolton doing the semi-final the day after. I remember getting to the stadium and we were still doing it all, and then somebody said to me, "You can't come into the dressing rooms when they're getting ready." And I was like, "All right, okay, that's fine." And then Nikki Emmons, who owns MSC, the nutrition company, was sat with me because she called me coach, and Sean Jones was stood with me from Leeds. Sean's just a legend. And I remember all the girls going, and I remember sitting there and and like I said, I don't cry in public. And I remember sobbing my eyes out. And it hit me that I'd just gone, everyone else. And then I was absolutely devastated because, again, I was at the top of my game, I was playing really well. And they swept me up, and then they took me into corporate, and Sean was just like, gave me the hug. She like wrapped her arms around me. She let me have my moment. She was like, "Get yourself together, we're going to go do corporate." And I was like, "What?" And she just waltzed into corporate. She was like, "This is Danika of Leeds Rhinos." And I was like, "What?" And she just knew exactly, kept me busy. Nikki Emmons kept me busy. And there was moments throughout the game I was like on and off. And then I remember it was quite tight, wasn't it, towards the end? And I remember being stood there, and I remember thinking all I wanted to do was this whistle to blow in the girls to, and I never felt more strongly about wanting a team to win anything in my life. And then there's a video of the final whistle went, and we all ran on to, "I've just snapped my ACL, I've just come out my breath." And there's a video, and there's Ashton Golding, and in the back going, "Look at Danika go!" Yeah. And I've still got the video because I look back and I'm like, "You idiot." And then the whole, really weird, the whole moment of Kev Sinfield and Jamie Jones in the Challenge Cup, where Kev was like, "You are coming up." Courtney obviously didn't know anything about that. Courtney was never part, never seen the video. I remember Courtney going, "You are coming up." And I was like, wow. And I hadn't even thought about the Kev and Jamie moment at that time. I just remember, I was like, "Oh no, it's a bit weird. And she was like, "No, you're coming." And then the other uninjured girl, she was like, "You are coming up as well." And we went up, and she did the thing, and she wasn't captain, because Lois was captain at the time, and she had a medal in her hand, and I remember just giving it to me and hugging me and saying, "This is yours." And it was one of those moments where you're just like, the kindest act that anybody could have ever done. She was fresh to Rugby League. That medal was just as important to her, but she gave it to me, and there's a picture of the when you see the celebration of her hugging me that I've screenshotted from the video. And that was another one of the moments where I was like, the hardest day was made easier by the girls.
But did it make the following year that much more to say?
It's that interview, isn't it?
You know, I nearly missed that final.
Oh.
Well, two things I need to tell you. One, 2018, we were on that side of the opposite side of the pitch from where you all were. And that's where people from Castleford, I don't know, they can't be substitutes because they're on that side of the pitch. So I don't know what they were doing there. They were not impressed with Leeds. Not impressed that Leeds won.
Nope.
But they've probably all gone now anyway, so it doesn't matter. 2019, I nearly missed the final because Phil forgot to pick me up.
Forgot?
There were some cross wires. I had to get a taxi from Ellen Road to Leeds train station.
I think he used the phrase "I'm all right," which I took to mean he'd made his own arrangements to get
the stadium.
Until I got a phone call not far from the saying, "Are you picking me up?"
I got in to see the last 15 minutes.
Stop.
No, I've not seen much of that game. So that interview with you is blind pretty much afterwards. But I didn't need to see any of the game because it was irrelevant. Because it was just, I think you've played in the final.
Oh, yeah. Wicked.
So those moments are better for what you've been through the year before?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think being part of the Challenge Cup squad and the Grand Final squad, you know, whilst injured, I'm all about this learning curve thing. And like, I remember when Danny did her knee, and we were going to, and I just texted saying, "This is going to be shit. This final's going to be shit. I'm sorry. There's no other way to say it. It's going to be rough."
Right, it was terrible.
I invited him, and I just remember, it doesn't matter what the result is, the day is going to be. So take time for yourself. Don't worry about us. And she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Don't focus on the girls. Focus on getting yourself through it. If you want to be there." And I remember being like, ouch. And I was like, and I was really worried about Danny because obviously I'd been like, you know, I know how rough it's going to be. And I just remember at the end she was like, I was like, "Oh, sorry. You know, you're not. I don't know what you're sorry for, but you're sorry because you know how bad it is." And I remember the grand final again. And being gutted for the girls because of the result and the way it happened and dodge a penalty, whether it or not it was.
It was an awful game.
Yeah. All of them again. You have to be there for the team, so you get. There's a moment of kind of like you have to stop thinking about yourself as well. But to get to the Challenge Cup, having missed it with Bradford the year before that, Leeds, and then to get to playing one, and to come out on winners, and to have played an all right game. And I'm just thinking I could retire now and be happy. Obviously, I never would have done, but I remember thinking, I've done it now. I've finally done it. I remember the build-up to it. I remember like James Dayton was ringing me saying, "Oh, you're going to finally be in one?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah," and totally not wanting the focus to be on me playing in the Challenge Cup. I just wanted the focus to be on the girls because then every man, I don't have many people watching me. I have the same handful of people that come to my games that I'm super grateful for. I remember my brothers, my oldest and my youngest brother, being like, "Oh, we're coming to," and I was like, "What? I'm going to have family there? Actual family there?" Like, I've never had that. And the occasion of it, and that was quite a big one at the time, wasn't it, when they got it on the BBC and stuff. So the occasion of the whole Challenge Cup final was a lot bigger as well. So yeah, it was
a pretty seminal moment for the women's game as well, because I think that's when it went off the red button to people started saying there might be something in this and recognisable teams and
and then like, you know, to have, and we know that the crowd was because of the men after us. We're not.
Doesn't matter. They're still claiming that the Barbarians had 40,000 people.
Oh yeah, I know. But you know, like, we had 4,500 nearly for the last 15-20 minutes of the game, which is enough. You see 5 minutes, don't you, to see that it's not actually that much of a bad product. But you know what I mean? That's what it was. But we got the crowd at the end. The cheers, people were cheering, but they weren't cheering for us. They were just clapping because it was the end of a game. But for us at the time, the occasion of it, I remember Pete pulled me to talk to me on pitch as well, and I genuinely, the only reason I remember that interview is because I've seen it after. But I was just like, did it? I don't remember the evening much after.
I'm stood there at the side because there was a whole group of journalists. And I was the only one who got you, and I can't remember where else everyone spoke to. But I was on, you know.
You'd only just arrived.
Yeah. I didn't know scored any tries. It was a great rivalry, you and Castleford.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Did you dislike them as much as they disliked you? Because they obviously did.
That's historic.
Yeah, I think that comes with the territory of playing for Leeds, isn't it? Like,
Big
if I got
big city.
if I got offered all the money in the world to go play for Cas now, I couldn't wear a Cas badge.
You know, it's
It's
interesting.
only a matter of time.
I said this in 2017, and I've been proven right, which I'm not often, and I've been proven right here as well. They had one season, or maybe, well, two as it turns out, to win anything, and they didn't win a thing, apart from the League Leaders' Shield. They get medals for that, which they're rightly upset about, because obviously everyone has got medals since. You lost them a couple of times in the build-up. I remember being at the Jungle and was it 24-0 or something?
It's got a wife got a bloody stupid tattoo on my leg, isn't it?
You know, they couldn't be in the big games. Why was that?
Pressure. Young squad. We have done really well. Adam is up there, some of my favourite ever coaches for his composure. At times I was like, you need to be a little bit harsh on us, but actually when it got to it, so we'd always go into the sheds down, either drawing at the time or down. We never really went into the sheds, and when we did go into the sheds up, it was always like, oh, this is not right, this is not the right round it should be. And I remember his composure just being calm. He'd go around everybody, chat, and he'd just be like, girls, are you in top gear yet? And we'd be like, no, we're not. And he'd put the onus back on us, and we'd recognise where we needed to go. Whereas, the coaching staff at Cash, you could hear them screaming and shouting at each other, which in turn meant the girls screaming and shouting at each other on the field. And we know, as soon as we've got them screaming and shouting at each other, we're in. Whether you target one or two players and get them frustrated because you know they're key players, which is all part of the game plan, isn't it? Like, everyone does it. We knew that as soon as they started tension in the ranks, we were on to money, because it creates pressure.
In 2019, though, for Bounce, Frank Gold, that was never a try, was it?
I agree. I said it. I said it on BBC, I think. I said it on Look North on the interview 2 days later, and Tanya said, don't say that because you've already got the score. And I was like, it's my opinion.
After that final, I think we had another one. That was the longest we've ever heard. I ended up in the tunnel with you.
The grand final. That was a grand final, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Charlotte Boone, didn't you?
Yeah. Show me your ass from behind the camera.
It's shocking for that. This stuff doesn't happen in the men's game.
I'm shocked.
Shocked.
Stunned. After that final, you've beaten them in 2 Challenge Cup finals, you've beaten them in the grand final. You were losing that one, as you said.
That was on Sky, wasn't it?
Yes.
You did.
Yeah.
Just God with him. Anyway, carry on.
Domestically, club-wise, was that the pinnacle?
For me, yeah. I'd fought quite hard to come back from my ACL. I came back, so I did my ACL the 27th of May 2018. I made my comeback the 26th of May 2019. I got told it was going to be at least a year from operation to playing again, but I did the whole thing, waited 3 months from operation, and got back 8 months and 3 weeks after my operation, not that I counted. And we'd worked really hard. We were in good form as a squad, weren't we? It was that blue kit, honestly. I sometimes reckon it's the kit.
So is that what you're blaming 2021 on, the yellow Teletubbies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't buy it in the shops. Shocking.
Yeah.
Nice kit.
See, if I got an English shirt for a tenner with that, I would have bought it.
But yeah, I think Adam was great. Like, the Gibbo twins are great. Like, you've got the casualness of Adam, the very calm manner of Adam, and then you've got the old school of the Gibbos basically telling us that was shit and to pull your finger out. And then on the back of that as well, you've got Lois who's hovering, and again, like, we're reminded that there are people that can't play, and you've got it. And we had this real kind of mentality at Leeds, and there still is that be grateful to wear the shirt because others around you can't. And I think particularly with Lois coaching now, and they make a really big thing on the rehab. The rehabbers that are injured are still as much a part of the training day and training nights as the able team. So it's always been the bigger picture at Leeds, and it's the least cliquiest team I've ever played for. Like, at 1 minute I can be with Sophie, who is 10 years younger. The next I'm with Caitlin, who's, 13, 14 years younger. And then, you come forward and I've got the likes of, like, the new girls, Danika, who was 20 years younger. And not one of them, when we're on the pitch or when we're out having a drink, they're no different to you. There's no, do you know what I mean? And I think that's a really nice thing to feel like. It's weird when I say, me and Caitlin went up to Newcastle together, like, the age difference shouldn't work. And in any normal friendship, it would be a little bit like, it's a bit weird, wouldn't it? But it's not, and, it was wicked yesterday to see all the girls, and it was bittersweet in a way. Because I think yesterday was really the last hurrah with them. As the squad, as the squad. So, yeah, 2019, we were on fire. We had very strong goals. We were gutted not to do the league leaders. But that was our own. But that's even when we lost against the Cass in that game at 24-26 at the Jungle. We came away and we already had analysed ourselves before the coaches needed to do it.
So you finish up playing in the grand final. It might not have been the result that you wanted.
Yeah.
But I think most teams will tip their hat to the better opposition on the day.
Absolutely, yeah.
So no excuses. But you finish on your home ground in front of 4,500 people, which is the biggest crowd to a women's game.
Mm-hmm.
You're leaving the game as a player in a much better place than it was when you started,
yeah.
Which again is partly down to you because you've helped raise the profile of it. People are going to see the benefit of what you did and the people that came before you, which shouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah.
In later years, when women do get paid for playing and more Super League teams realise that having a women's element is not something that they just need to talk about, but actually they need to put some resource behind.
Yeah.
And on that pitch on that day, when you know that it's finished, you were very emotional.
Oh, yeah.
But how has retirement been? Because you said like yesterday was sort of almost drawing a line under that.
Yeah.
Even though you might be back at some stage in a coaching capacity, the development team or whatever it might be. I think you said something the other week that it's been horrible.
Yeah, like...
And that you can put the bravest face on and you can enjoy the social times, but actually nobody really realises what this transition is, because something that clearly you've expressed tonight as being so important to you.
Yeah, it's
taken away almost like instantaneously.
I think,
even though you know it's coming.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If you were injured or if you weren't in love with the sport anymore, the start of 2020 season, I didn't know if I'd last the season because I wasn't enjoying my rugby, and that's when the thing started. I'd always had it kind of in my mind. There's got to be a certain point, and I always wanted to go out when I was still needed. I never wanted to go out not being played. It's an ego thing, isn't it? And I know that I'm on the cusp of that now. I was on the cusp of it, obviously. So the start of 2020 season, I wasn't enjoying it. I was a bit like, oh no, I'm done. And then I got back into it. Fortunately, we had a few injuries, so I was playing a lot more and I was picked a lot more, which helped. Which just meant I was relied on a bit more, which is where I'm happiest. I like being needed. Like, who doesn't? But I step up then when, like, you need to start. If you're blowing, but they need 3 more minutes from me, I know that I need to find 3 more minutes from somewhere for the rest of the people around me. Yeah, like, it's a huge mental kind of... If I was doing it for myself, I probably wouldn't do it, but because I'm doing it for somebody else... And it got to the point where I know that there's 4 or 5 girls that could play prop that were out with injury this season, that are younger, are fitter, are better. And it's not better because I don't think I'm any good. It's better because they're younger and they're fitter. It takes me a lot longer to get over injuries. It takes me a little bit longer to stand up after. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm nearly 40. I'm closer to 40 than I am. I thought, ugh. So it was like a real sensible kind of... You've just played in a grand final. You will not make the next grand final if everyone's fit, because you're not up there. And there's been 18th man, which is lovely, but it's not playing, is it? It's not being picked. So I knew that I'd struggled a bit with my commitments for work, and I knew that work was being quite tough. Like, there's quite physical at work in terms of having to restrain and stuff. and both weren't working together, so I'd either go in on a Monday and Tuesday and still be sore and not be able to do my job, or I'd been punched, or I'd been to hospital a couple of times just to check on injuries that meant I couldn't train as well. And it was just one of those things where I'd never, ever, ever, ever in the whole time missed a training session, and I've had to miss one. I had to miss one because of work this season, and I was like absolutely gutted. And I was like, well, this is it. I don't want to go on. But the final whistle, obviously we were devastated about the score. And I hadn't told the girls, I'd mentioned it a little bit, like this is probably going to be it, but I hadn't actually said, girls, this is my last game, because I didn't really want that fuss, if that makes sense. So you were the first person I told, really. I'd mentioned it, but you were the first person I told, and I remember then going to Sian Jones again, caught me afterwards, and she was like, what the hell's happened? And I was like, it's it. And she was like, tell Leanne quickly. And I'd said to Leanne, and Leanne wouldn't let me do it. She was like, this is not it, you need time to think. I was like, Leanne, this is it, don't give me time to think, I have to do it now, and I have to rip the plaster off. But I'm not ready. Like, I would play again tomorrow. I would definitely play again tomorrow. But there's an ego thing. Like, one, I don't want to play and not be picked. I don't want to train and not be picked. And two, I don't want to play for anybody else other than Leeds. Why would I want to play? Oh, not lower league, like, but you know what I mean? I don't want to play for anybody that's not as good as Leeds. It's been my dream. Like, I would put playing for Leeds Rhinos above playing for England, just because of the history and knowing more about them and being such a long fan of theirs and stuff. So being able to play for my hometown club was always the highlight of my career. So, like I said, the result wasn't great, but I finished
on your terms.
Loosely, yeah, it is on my terms, but I have got more to give, and I could get fit and I could play again, but sensible, isn't it? It's just been sensible.
But you can make a contribution to the next generation now. So
well, that's
it's
it.
More of a mentoring role.
Yeah, I've been chatting to Lois, and that the biggest thing for me is the pride in wearing the badge.
Could you play for the development team? Does it have to be age? Because
I wouldn't want to.
Why? Has John Holmes finished his career in the 18, bringing
the
next generation of
I'm
kids?
not.
On?
I've just finished my career in a grand final at Headingley Stadium in front of a record crowd, and I was really fortunate because I was doing this thing for Jude Palmer called 14 inches.
This your
centimetres. 14 centimetres, yeah.
Modelling career.
Excuse me, 14 centimetres. And she came to the grand final. She got commissioned to come to the grand final or whatever. And she has a picture of me in the warm-up. And I wore straps around my... And when I first started wearing straps, it's because I had some sports psychology before the World Cup. And I used to put tips on them, so it'd be like, quick play the ball or run... I'd put tips on. Yeah. On this arm, I always put Naomi, who's my reason why, my little buddy. I always put Naomi's name there. And then I used to interchange stuff, like the kids would be like, Miss, we put my name on. And I put my bestest friend name, Jenny, on this wrist, on the outside. And Jude caught a picture of me in the warm-up. I'm in the middle of the field, my arm is raised like this, Jenny's name's on show. And I'm just like, this picture epitomises, like I couldn't ask for a better finale, if that makes sense. And that picture literally is kind of like it's the chapter closed. So I don't want to put my boots on for Rugby League and play for anybody else or any other team, because I finished, I think, as hard as it is, like, it's super difficult. Like, I've lost my family, I haven't lost them at all, but they're doing pre-season and I'm still in the group, so I can see the Tuesday, Thursday, let me in, or that was hard, or make sure you're doing this. They've just got a bloody sponsorship deal for boots and trainers and sports bras.
More
Fuming. Not in the loop for that. But like, I do know what it means to play for Leeds Rhinos, and to be able to pass on, maybe not even my expertise in the game, but the pride for Leeds Rhinos. So, maybe it be the under-16s academy or whatever. I'm going to start them young and be like, you are training. Whether you play for Leeds Rhinos or not, you have got this ability or this opportunity to train. And I want to instill... I remember being really angry with the girls in the changing rooms, maybe 2018, 2019, when they didn't undo the socks the right way, for the washing pile, because our kit got washed and put up for us, whereas we, in even 2017, 2016, had to take turns in washing the kit. And I was like, you don't understand how privileged you are. Like, have a bit of respect for whoever it is that's going to wash our kit. Have a bit of respect for that. Turn your socks the right way around, turn your kit the right way around, turn your shorts the right way around. I think that's a really important part for me of you are playing at the highest level you can play for a women's game at the minute. But be respectful of A, those who went before you, but B, those who are making your game so professional and so elite. And I want that, and if I can, I might be able to pass on a little bit of expertise in terms of, my tackling is rubbish, it's just a weight thing, I just grab and pull. But, do you know what I mean? The
ethics.
Yeah, absolutely, your morals and your reason
Spirit
why.
Of the rhino,
genuinely, like, as cliche as that is.
Just tell them to stay off social media. Just tell them to stay off.
Yeah.
At least you all behave, you will.
We do.
I want to know what. In fact, I know we had a brief conversation after the final. Though Phil spoke, so I want to know what to say. I think I just shrugged my shoulders at you when you said it was shit or something.
Succinct.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been a great column. But
it was a great column.
A rough ride.
I don't know how to draw this to a conclusion.
Well, it's not a conclusion, really.
No.
It's just
next chapter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting to know a bit more about the personality. I mean, we've talked a lot about what Channel 4 might be able to do with the sport. One of the things they can do is build stories like these, get to know people behind the performance.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we got to know a bit more about you, and clearly your career will move in a slightly different direction now, but you could become one of the faces of women's rugby league.
You won't forget us, will you? When you're on Channel 4.
Yeah, once you're on the camera,
Whoa,
flicking
whoa.
things.
Whoa. No. Never.
That's all right.
Never. No.
Well,
It's very
you
humbled.
can be part of this family now.
Yeah,
well, you
that's
have
it.
been for the last
I know.
4 years.
So that's it. I'm super, super humbled. Like, it's really weird because I look at my phone now.
And it's me going, where's your call?
Yeah, I mean, apart from that. But that's my favourite text of the month. But it's like I announced my retirement and Barry McDermott texted me saying, let's go for coffee, it's going to be tough. And John Wilkin was like, nah, it's the right thing to do. You should just, the different perceptions of everything. And I went, Tanya Arnold's a really good friend of mine now. I really rate her. We text nearly pretty much every day, whether it's a stupid meme or a tweet or whatever. I go around to her and now that's my family. Like, I went round for dinner the other Wednesday, and her and her husband and her son Archie, they were like, just come in, just let us know and we'll get extra fishing or what, do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I do sit down sometimes and just think, I literally cannot describe. I come from the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the point. Where sometimes the kids you see that don't have clean socks, or we didn't have, I didn't know what lunch was. I didn't know that lunch was an actual meal of the day until I was
it's not
late
breakfast,
teens.
dinner and tea. There's no lunch. There's not.
Oh, well, here we go with that bloody thing. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't know there were 3 meals. I thought 3 meals was a school thing. And that's how, I come from the bottom of the barrel. And it's not upon me, that was just as was, so it's fine. To now, I'm on the BBC, I'm on Sky Sports, I'm friends with some of my idols and people I respect so much, and my phone is littered with people. I look at it sometimes, I'm just like, that's not... I genuinely think I'm going to wake up. I genuinely believe that one day I'll wake up and I'll just be bog standard me, because I can't write. I can't even put into words how it's humbling, it's overwhelming, and it's just... I took my best friend Jenny, who I've mentioned a few times, to the photo gallery thing, the gallery opening, and people wanted to speak to me and they wanted my autograph and they wanted pictures with me, and she just was like, I'll never get used to this. But I'll never get used to this. And I was like, no, nor will I. This is weird. Nor will I. And she was like, she rang me up a couple of weeks afterwards and she was like, I just need to say how proud I am. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I see you on TV and I see you on these columns and I see you on social media and you're just Danika doing well. And actually, shit, you've done really well. And I'm like, and she was like, I don't think I ever tell you well done enough. And I'm like, it's perfect. I don't need that from you because I know I've got it all the time. But even my best friend is a bit like, this is correct. Why? But not in a negative way. It's just literally from where I've come from, the things she knows that I've been through is kind of like, it's just one of those, you wouldn't write it. You could, everyone dreams a dream of being a pro footballer or something, haven't they? I've lived my dream. I always wanted to compete for England, and I also had to be shot put or something ridiculous like that because of Eastern European roots, you know what I mean, and athletics. Or I always thought if I was ever in a car accident, at least I'd be in the Paralympics, you know, something that's... No, but that's how crazy it used to be. Like, that's how wild my dreams used to be.
Bobsleigh?
Yeah. No. There used to be like a talent ID, so volleyball, bobsleigh, and rowing.
I'm obsessed with watching bobsleigh racing, and they have all these different athletes who take on it.
But that's what I mean. Like, I genuinely always said, one day I will do something. I'll compete for my country. And I remember the first time going, oh shit, this is it. This is what else am I meant to dream about now? And it's kind of like just weird.
I don't want to compare my career to yours. But there are times where I think the same thing as well. Once you've done something that you've wanted to do since you were a child, you then have that point where you think, what do I do next? I'm just at the point where I just think,
there's plenty of other mountains to climb.
Maybe we could do like, you know, dancing on ice next. I'd like that.
You and Ellery.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I quite like that.
I broke my ankle walking down the street.
Because of ice?
No, just...
Because you tripped over.
No.
Yeah.
You missed the pavement.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Do you aim for something ludicrous like that? Because is it ludicrous anymore? You know what I mean? Like,
I think you've got more chance of being on Dancing on Ice than Scully has of getting in the jungle.
Well, I mean, I don't even want it for the fame or anything like that. I don't even want the money for it.
You know, the ridiculous thing is, there is more of a chance of a women's rugby league player being on something like that than probably a man these days because of the way things have changed.
It'll be Jodie. She's got a blue tick now, hasn't she?
Has she?
She's blue ticked now.
She can be on the best of the end of the year programme because that's one of my favourite interviews this year after the semi-final. Sorry. I didn't want you to win.
Such a Judas, isn't he?
I know, but I didn't know.
This is one of my favourite interviews. Oh, God, your favourite interview.
To coin a phrase, buttering your parsnips to bringing it out.
Do you know what?
Yeah, but she's not coming on the podcast.
Tell you what, I retire, and then that's it. Washes his hands.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask who's the next Danika so we can get him on the programme. Just, you know.
There's plenty of them. Idiot in a shirt. We should make that a series, you know.
We will. I mean, we'll. Our series we'll do something.
Do something.
I think what's... I get frustrated with people on telly because I watch some people, be it rugby or football or cricket. I don't criticise them in the comp because it's not the place to do that.
And if you did, I'd diss it out.
Yeah, I do it behind the backs on social on WhatsApp. But I see.
I've seen some of your WhatsApp. That's why.
Wait till I tell you something off air. But I see people on there who are obviously don't put in the work and don't put in the effort and are there purely on name.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell you put the effort in and you're trying to improve. That's because you are working with the best people.
I appreciate it.
And work out.
Present company, except.
Yeah.
Hey, remember where it all started?
You've seen how this shambolic thing works.
Do you remember? I remember my first podcast here. I remember sweating, being that nervous. I remember, yeah.
I probably would have been more nervous if I hadn't actually come in.
I remember being like really well spoken and quite.
Yeah, well, it's all falling apart now.
I know. Blech.
It was funny when the first time I interviewed you, which was after Leeds and Wakefield at Wheatwood.
Remember?
Because I emailed Leanne in the build-up and I said I wanted to speak to you. I can't remember why. And she said, you know, she's not playing it. I said, yeah. I persevered.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Maybe I should. All of this is down to you.
It is. So can I have a percentage? I'm sure the BBC pay you.
Percentage of.
Do you know what? That has been the hardest thing to get over.
Because you make more money out of that than you will from your whole career.
One of the biggest things that Tanya's been doing for me is I was not the yes man or whatever, but somebody asked me to do something. You say yes. Because the more you do it, the better you get at speaking to people. The more that you're doing something. And
well, this is why I'm reticent to ask you because I to come on all the time because I don't want to monopolise your time and B, you're not getting paid for this.
No, but it's not. There's like
break it to her after a couple of hours, not before.
I know, but there's still a couple of things now where you do it, and you do it because. And when people, honestly, I did something the other month, and I remember them saying, "Can you send me an invoice for your fee?" And I was like, "What? 20-minute talk?" And they wanted me to invoice them for my fee, and I was like, That's ridiculous. I remember ringing Leanne, and Leanne was like, it's a really big company, invoice them for the fee. And luckily the guy that was commissioned to do it, blah, 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 it was a circle of, is a guy that I'd done something for him in 2018, the week before I did my ACL. So actually, he was the one, and he was like, no, this is a fee you're going to ask for. And I was like, what? I was like, okay. And it took me a week to put my invoice in because I couldn't physically send it off. Because I just find it ludicrous. Like, and now I'm terrible for asking for my money because I don't need it, because I really genuinely enjoy doing it. But there are people there who are like, these are big companies that the fee they pay me is a pittance, isn't it?
Oh, there's one company who I had to chase them forever to pay an invoice. I'm not sure they actually ever did. It was so long ago. It's a pain in the backside. You
know, and sometimes I have been really bad, and there's been a couple of invoices I haven't sent off. And this company's not going to chase you for, hey, you haven't sent your invoice, hey? So it is a really weird concept to do that. But super grateful that I can potentially make some sideline career out of doing what I love and speaking about what I love. So it's a bonus, isn't it?
That is the other thing to your advantage, isn't it? It's not your full-time be-all and end-all thing.
Yeah.
A real life outlet.
And realistically, I don't know if I'd ever not teach. So...
Well, one day somebody else will come along to be, because that's the reality of the media.
Exactly, yeah. See ya.
Well, yesterday's men.
That's
we
it.
used to be someone.
Yeah, but yeah. It's curveball, but it's brilliant. Yeah. If you think about it too long. Yeah, fingers crossed.
I don't know. Is that it?
Peace out.
Yeah. I'm going to ask something trite like, how would you like people to remember you? Chunky but funky.
Chunky but funky. I just hope I remembered for, like you say, working hard and doing a good... Like, I just want to promote Women's Rugby League as the best it can be. Honestly, in the best light and with the best interest, the girls' best interest at heart, genuinely.
So now we're going to go off air and...
we're going to reel you.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, well, we'll be back next week pre-recorded, but...
Bye.
I should do a proper ending, shouldn't I?
No.
We never have to.
Happy New Year.